Have you ever thought about when people first began writing stories? What were the first myths ever written in history? The answer lies in Mesopotamia, the land known as the home of culture. Thousands of years ago, this was a world where the first writing system was invented, the first rules were written, and the oldest religious stories were recorded. It was here that great tales like the story of Gilgamesh and the fight between Marduk and Tiamat were told. But Mesopotamian mythology isn't just a collection of old stories. It's a reflection of how early societies tried to understand the world around them. These myths shaped the views of entire countries and affected many faiths and cultures that followed. Even today, we can see traces of these old legends in modern storytelling, writing, and faith. In this series, we will explore the interesting tales of Babylonian and Sumerian traditions, their gods, their famous heroes, and their epic fights between chaos and order. Are you ready to discover the secrets of the world's greatest mythology? Mesopotamian civilization. Mesopotamia, also known as the cradle of civilization, was an ancient territory located in what is now modern-day Iraq, sections of Syria, and southeastern Turkey. The term Mesopotamia originates from the Greek words meso, middle, and potamos, river, meaning land between two rivers, referring to the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. These rivers offered high landscape, making Mesopotamia the origin of some of the oldest human communities and renowned civilizations. The earliest known civilization to arise in Mesopotamia was the Sumerians, about 3000 BCE. They created some of the oldest towns, including Ur, Uruk, and Eridu, and established one of the world's first known writing systems, cuneiform script. This technique, consisting of wedge-shaped markings pressed into clay tablets, was used to record everything from trade and legislation to religious mythology and poetry. Later, the Babylonians rose to power, absorbing and developing Sumerian traditions. Under kings like Hammurabi and Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon became a center of study, mythology, and law. They retained and adapted many Sumerian myths, creating new legends such as the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Enuma Elish, a creation story that inspired later religious stories. Mesopotamian culture wasn't just about myths. It established the groundwork for human advancement, introducing significant innovations in law, astronomy, mathematics, and literature. Their stories, inscribed on clay tablets, have persisted for thousands of years, providing us a look into one of the world's most interesting cultures. Important gods and creation. Myths. Mesopotamian mythology is filled with great gods and epic stories that affected the beliefs of ancient civilizations. The Sumerians and Babylonians had separate gods, but much of their mythology was interrelated, changing throughout time. Sumerian gods. The Sumerians worshipped a huge pantheon of gods, each symbolizing different aspects of nature and life. 1. Anu, the sky god, considered the ultimate ruler of the skies. He was one of the earliest deities, frequently viewed as the parent of many gods. 2. Enlil, the god of storms, wind, and air, and one of the most powerful deities. He was thought to have divided the sky from the ground and had an important role in controlling fate. 3. Enki, Ea, the god of wisdom, magic, and water. He was known for his brilliance and ability to serve humanity by offering counsel and establishing order from chaos. Enki was also related to the Apsu, the subterranean freshwater source. Babylonian gods. As the Babylonians rose to prominence, they adopted and reinterpreted older Sumerian gods, giving them new roles in their mythology. 1. Marduk, the ultimate god of Babylon and the hero of their creation tale. He was recognized for his strength, wisdom, and ability to bring order to the globe. 2. Tiamat, the primeval goddess of chaos, frequently represented as a gigantic sea dragon. She represents the wild and destructive aspects of nature. 3. Ishtar, Inanna in Sumerian myth, the goddess of love, beauty, war, and fertility. She was both a loving figure and a terrifying warrior, capable of delivering both passion and disaster. The Babylonian creation myth, Enuma Elish. One of the most renowned Mesopotamian myths is the Babylonian creation narrative, Enuma Elish. This epic legend explains how the world was constructed through a conflict between chaos and order. In the beginning, there was simply Tiamat, chaos, salt water, and Apsu, fresh water. When younger gods were created, they worried Apsu, causing him to plan for their destruction. But Enki stopped him by putting him to sleep and murdering him. Enraged, Tiamat produced an army of monsters to slay the gods. The gods needed a champion, so they picked Marduk, who consented to battle Tiamat on one condition. He would be appointed the ultimate ruler of the gods if he won. Marduk defeated Tiamat, breaking her body into two parts. From one half, he made the heavens, and from the other, he built the earth. He then made mankind from the blood of a rebellious god, giving them the responsibility of serving the gods. This narrative portrayed the victory of order over chaos and strengthened Marduk's authority in Babylonian religion. It also established the foundation for many later religious books and creation myths, inspiring stories like the biblical Genesis. Mesopotamian gods and stories were profoundly tied to the daily lives of the people, impacting their rituals, beliefs, and even laws. These stories, etched into clay tablets, continue to illuminate the remarkable worldview of one of history's greatest civilizations. Famous myths and stories. Mesopotamian folklore is rich with epic tales that explore themes of power, death, the afterlife, and the battle between gods and humans. Some of the most famous stories from this old society have affected later tales and holy texts. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest heroic. Epic one of the most fabled legends from Mesopotamia is the Epic of Gilgamesh, considered the world's oldest epic. Written in cuneiform script on clay tablets, this epic chronicles the exploits of Gilgamesh, a mighty king of Uruk, who was 2/3 god and 1/3 human. Gilgamesh was a strong ruler, but he was also arrogant. The gods sent a wild man, Enkidu, to challenge him. After a hard conflict, the two became great friends. Together they went on great adventures, slaying monsters like Humbaba and the Bull of Heaven. However, after they slaughtered the Bull of Heaven, sent by Ishtar after Gilgamesh spurned her love, the gods punished them by causing Enkidu's death. Struck with sadness, Gilgamesh set off on a mission to attain immortality, fearing his own death. He encountered Utnapishtim, the Mesopotamian version of Noah, who escaped a huge flood and was granted perpetual life by the gods. After many tribulations, Gilgamesh learned that immortality is reserved for the gods, and mankind must find significance in their mortal existence. The Epic of Gilgamesh contains similarities with subsequent religious literature, notably the account of Noah's Ark, since both describe a tremendous flood and a selected survivor, Ishtar and the descent to the underworld. Another famous story is the descent of Ishtar, Inanna, into the underworld, which depicts themes of life, death, and rebirth. Ishtar, the goddess of love and battle, chose to visit the underworld, governed by her sister Ereshkigal, the queen of the dead. As she walked through the 7 gates of the underworld, she was compelled to remove a piece of clothing or jewelry at each gate until she stood before Ereshkigal, absolutely weak and defenseless. Ereshkigal grabbed her, and as a result, life on Earth started to slow down, plants stopped growing, and fecundity dropped. Seeing this calamity, the gods sent Enki, the god of knowledge, to save her. He deceived Ereshkigal into releasing Ishtar. However, Ishtar could not depart the underworld until someone took her place. She picked her husband, Tammuz, who was subsequently consigned to the underworld, but later he was allowed to return for a part of the year, signifying the cycle of seasons. This tale is one of the earliest portrayals of death and resurrection, similar to later stories like Persephone and Hades in Greek mythology. These stories from Mesopotamian mythology were more than simply entertainment. They revealed the secrets of life, death, and the gods' role in the cosmos. They also impacted many later faiths and literary traditions, indicating that even the earliest myths continue to hold everlasting wisdom. Babylonian and Sumerian impact on later religions. Mesopotamian myths and customs had a deep impact on later religions, shaping stories, laws, and even astrological beliefs. Many aspects from Sumerian and Babylonian myths can be found in later religious texts, including the Bible, and ideas like divine justice and astrology were carried forward into different societies. The Great Flood, a link to biblical stories. One of the most remarkable parallels between Mesopotamian mythology and later religious literature is the flood myth, which closely mirrors the story of Noah's Ark in the Bible. In Sumerian and Babylonian mythology, the flood tale appears in numerous forms, including the Epic of Atrahasis and the Epic of Gilgamesh, including Utnapishtim. According to these myths, the gods chose to annihilate humanity with a catastrophic flood because people had gotten too noisy and disruptive. The god Enki, Ea, warned a good man, Atrahasis Utnapishtim, and commanded him to build a gigantic boat to save himself, his family, and animals. After the deluge, the gods regretted their judgment, and Utnapishtim was granted immortality as a recompense. This strongly recalls the biblical story of Noah, where God tells Noah to construct an ark to withstand a divine deluge, illustrating how Mesopotamian mythology influences Abrahamic tradition. Astrology and the zodiac. The Babylonians played an essential role in establishing astrology, which eventually became an important part of many religions and societies. They divided the sky into 12 zodiac signs, which were tied to gods and planetary activities. These signs were thought to impact human fate and were eventually embraced by Greek, Roman, and Islamic astrology. The belief that the location of celestial bodies impacts human fate may still be found in modern astrology and horoscopes. Hammurabi's Law and Divine Justice. Another significant influence of Mesopotamian culture on subsequent religions was the notion of divine justice and law, best expressed by Hammurabi's code. King Hammurabi of Babylon, approximately 1750 BCE, developed one of the first known legal systems, which was based on the principle of justice granted by the gods. The rules were carved on a massive stone stele, and at the top there was a picture of Shamash, the sun god of justice, handing the laws to Hammurabi. The code includes the renowned principle, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, which was later reflected in biblical rules, e.g., in the Torah and Old Testament. The idea that rules were not merely produced by rulers but were divinely sanctioned inspired later religious and legal systems, particularly Islamic Sharia law and Christian canon law. Conclusion. The myths and traditions of Sumerians and Babylonians didn't vanish with time. They developed and affected major world religions and culture systems. From the flood myth to divine justice and astrology, Mesopotamian beliefs left an unforgettable mark on human history, shaping how people understood the cosmos, morals, and the role of heavenly power in their lives. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Subscribe to Explore Ancient Times for more fascinating stories from history. See you in the next video. Until then, take care and keep exploring the past.